Hi, I'm Phil Palucha from Billionaires in Boxers, and you are about to engage with Up Level Your Communication, hosted by Miluna. Wow, this is going to be powerful. Communication is at the heart of everything that is good about business and about sharing with your fellow humans, and Miluna is phenomenal at helping you share that message and also interview some pretty special and amazing guests too. Check it out right now.
Welcome to Up Level Your Communication. I'm your host, Dr. Miluna Bausch. On this show, I will be interviewing some of the most interesting business people in the world. We'll focus on up-leveling your communication and leadership skills so that your voice can be heard and you can make an impact in the world. Welcome to Up Level Your Communication. My guest today is a powerhouse. From human rights to animal rights to protesting to queen teachings to creating a goddess temple in Orange County, California. She is one of my absolute favorite spiritual leaders in the world, and I'm proud to call her my friend. Please welcome Ava Park, who's joining us from Irvine, California. Ava, please say hello and share a couple of sentences about yourself.
What a great pleasure to see my good friend, my respected colleague, Dr. Miluna. Thank you for having this moment for us together. I am remembering all of the amazing presentations that you've made over the years with the Museum of Woman and our spiritual group, the Goddess Temple. We benefited so much for so many years on your monthly presentations. The women will never forget the things that you taught them. So thank you for those decades, and thank you for continuing with your fantastic book. I well remember your great book launch and how the people were packed in there, and we were talking about your book. So you are doing amazing things, and I bow to you, sister. I bow to you.
Well, thank you. I think that was more about me than you. The graciousness. Yeah, I really appreciate that. We've known each other for a few years now, and it's been so meaningful. And we'll talk about the Museum of Woman in just a minute here. My first question, how do you think people judge a woman's power by the first 3 or 4 seconds of hearing her speak, her speaking voice?
The Polish, I think, have a proverb: the voice is the soul, exposed, shown to us. And my belief is that, rightly or wrongly, you can judge a person fairly effectively and fairly accurately by listening to their voice just for 3 or 4 seconds, as you say. That is my belief, because some people say, well, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. You shouldn't judge somebody by their voice so quickly. But it's a survival mechanism. When we were all cave women, we had to assess who was safe, who was going to help us, who might dominate us, who might not be trustworthy. We had to assess those things immediately. There was no time to sit back and take in the whole picture and wait for things to unfold. No, you had to know right away. And so, rightly or wrongly, in today's day and age, we still carry that power in our DNA. We still judge people immediately, if not necessarily negatively. And you can enhance or evolve in your judgment. When I hear a woman who's 45 or 50 or 60 years old speaking in a very breathy, childlike voice, and you and I have talked about this, then I don't I don't judge her in a negative way in terms of my relationship with her, but I do make some discernments. I do decide that here is a woman who perhaps, and I'll find out more later as I get to know her, but perhaps has some issues with her power. And maybe I can help her. Maybe I can support her in that. So you can make judgments about someone and the quality of their voice. And that brings to mind a Chinese medicine thing. Your voice is either woody or earthy or metal or watery. And that's a whole entire dissertation on its own. But the breathy, childlike voice is the low power voice. And women can consciously make their voice more resonant. Not necessarily deeper, or certainly not what we would call more masculine, but resonant. Resonant is the word I like to use with regard to a woman's voice. Let it be resonant.
So true. So true. I have a sense that you feel and intuit this as well. I can also tell if a woman has had emotional trauma around a certain age. And it's what you were saying. There might be issues. They may be afraid to be in their power. Something has happened, or a traumatic event at an early age. And the message we want to get out is it's that resonance that reveals so much. First, we see you, most of us visually. And then the minute I open my mouth, what am I saying to the world? How am I expressing? And it would do us well to build a better voice in many instances.
And that's where I appreciate your work so greatly, because this is so important. And this goes to how women are treated in a dominator model society, because it absolutely has to do with the voice. There is a physical continuum of neural pathway between the throat, the area of speaking, and also, by the way, the area metaphysically of truth, speaking truth, and a woman's genitals. Naomi Wolf talks about this. A woman's neural network in her belly, spreading out from her genitals, from her clitoris, from her uterus, from her vagina, is like a huge tree with many branches. And a man's is very, very simple. It's like a tree with just a couple little branches. So this is one of the many differences between woman's body and man's body that's little spoken of. So there's this connection between the throat, the voice, speaking, and being able to speak, feeling that you can speak truth clearly, and being raped. So when a young woman is sexually assaulted as a little girl, particularly if there is intercourse, unwanted intercourse, or a rape, it's the same physically as being gagged. When you are silenced, something is stuffed into your mouth and you are gagged, right? You know that image. Well, when you are raped, it forms the same kind of silencing. And that's why when little girls are sexually assaulted, that's why their voice can never fully develop if they don't make a conscious effort to overcome that later on. And so that's why your work is so important, to help women understand these connections, understand why they feel they are not good speakers. You know, the number one fear, as you well know, for women is speaking in public, ahead of death.
Yeah.
Yes. Death is number 2 on the list. Speaking in public is number 1. And why is that so? Because we have been shut down by this culture, both physically and in every other way. So those connections are extremely important. Those metaphysical connections and physical connections are very important to understand, so that as we grow up, we can literally speak as a queen, because that's the queen archetype's job. And also, when we're little girls, even if we are not sexually assaulted, we are taught in 1,000 ways by this culture not to speak. The classic, children should be seen and not heard. Well, that applies to little girls much more so than boys. Boys are allowed to yell and scream and go play outside, and little girls are supposed to be dainty and feminine and quiet and modulate their voice. So girls, as we're growing up, the way we are treated in this culture absolutely attempts to tamp down our power at a very subtle, physical, spiritual, psychological, even mental way. And we as women need to work with women like you who understand these things to help us. Sometimes it's hard for us to do these things alone, but with a good coach, a good vocal coach, who understands these things, we can make tremendous progress in a short period of time.
Wise words. And we don't realize the depth of the wounds and what we're called to heal so many times. Thank you, Ava.
Because we're like the old analogy, we're like fish swimming in water. What water? The water is all around us, the water of patriarchy, the water of the dominator model that absolutely tries to tamp down woman's power. And obviously, her queenly power, each of the 4 archetypes that I talk about, maiden, mother, queen, and wise woman, of all of those, it is the queen from the throat chakra who speaks. She speaks on behalf of her realm. She speaks truth to power. She is the power once she completely claims it. So that's what women need to understand. Women need to speak in a more authentic and genuine way, rather than just dissipating their energy in casual yakking that goes nowhere. Because men always complain that women, quote, talk too much. And there's something in that. We don't always use our power of voice appropriately. Sometimes we waste and dissipate our psychic energy through talking that is not necessarily meaningful, but just venting or letting built-up energy from our bodies be released through talking about nothing. But when we halt that, and when we start speaking very intentionally, everyone can feel it, and the respect for us goes up tremendously, because a woman who just yaks and yaks is not respected. So we must treat our words very, very carefully. We must use them confidently and powerfully with the help of women like you teaching us, and we must stop dissipating our energy in pointless talking.
Wisdom. Yeah, something we want to look at. And Ava, why is it so important that different voices enter the conversation? What I mean is specifically women and people with different forms of intelligence.
We know that there are many different forms of intelligence, and we know that woman encompasses more of them, all of them, compared to the male mind. We know this. Women are more relational, but also can be perfectly logical. People have divided up the mind into, the left brain and the right brain, and women are supposed to be right-brained and men are supposed to be left-brained and logical. But the fact is that science has already proved that the connections between a woman's right and left brain are very, very much more fluid than in men. women are the ones who have access to all of the forms of intelligence, and we need to respect that. And that's why women need to be in positions of leadership, so that all those different forms of intelligence, emotional intelligence, and the other forms can be brought into the conversation.
Gorgeous. And we always think of the brain, and in this country especially, it's the left brain, as you said, it's the tech, it's the logical, it's considered a more masculine trait. And we know that the real intelligence is the heart. The heart actually sends 80% of the messages to the brain. It's not the brain.
Yes.
The brain sends 20 down. So
Yes.
what does
Yes.
that tell us?
Well, the heart, as you said, the heart is the real brain.
It's the real brain. And we've got it all wrong. We're always up here at our heads.
Yeah.
And we really...
And so the queen has this ability. The queen is centered, the queen archetype is centered in the throat chakra, which is between the heart and the brain. And she connects the two of them in her speaking. She has the benefit of accessing both the heart and the brain, so that the whole picture can be seen. And in our society that has been dominated by a male-centric idea that is focused on logic, the brain, logic, and particularly the intellect is like a knife. Now, knives can be very, very useful. Obviously, we need knives to cut things, to cook. The knife is very useful. But you cannot use the knife for everything. If you tried to make a dress with only a knife, you would end up shredding everything. And that's what the intellect or logic does. It is a knife that chops everything up into little pieces. This goes to vivisection. Men who created the idea of vivisection, of using animals in laboratories, they believed in this idea of, if we can just chop life up into little tiny pieces and examine those pieces, then we will understand life. But we see that when you chop things up into little pieces, you kill life. That you might understand a few things at the physical level about how that life was constructed, but you have now killed that life in dissection, in vivisection. So we cannot use the intellect for everything. We must, as you say, as you well know, we must include the heart in all of our thinking and feeling, and bring that to bear on our public decisions. This is why our decisions of our government, which have been led by intellect and logic, are not serving the people, because they have chopped things up into little pieces, and they well on their way to destroying life. When you bring women in with our understanding of life, which is far more holistic, then you have something that serves life much, much better.
Indeed. And what can we women and the men in our audience, we're including you, we love you as well, do to, I'm going to use the word correct, our self-worth? How can we know and do better our own value and worth?
One of the principles of the dominator model mind is the way it expresses religion. And the primary religion that has dominated the West, so-called West, I don't care for the term the West, because on a globe, what's West and what's East? Only if you're Eurocentric can you decide what's West and East.
That's right.
But the Judeo-Christian idea of religion is basically a big judgmental overlord, big guy in the sky who judges us and can be somewhat punitive. The New Testament talks much more about love, but there is this sort of externalized idea of what spirituality is. Now, when God is male, then, and seen as male, and when you use the pronouns he and him all the time for thousands of years to describe God, then men can feel connected to the divine, but it leaves women feeling like they are on the outside of church, looking in with their nose pressed up against the window pane, and there's this guy, all the guys are together in the divinity, in the feeling of divinity, but the women are cut out. Now, personally, I don't believe that God is a big penis in the sky, nor do I believe that it's a big vagina in the sky. The difference between the spirituality, the natural spirituality of woman, which has been on the planet for hundreds of thousands of years, even by the archaeological record, it is more holistic and it is immanent rather than transcendent. So this dominator model idea of God is transcendent, it's outside yourself. The female idea of God, which you can call goddess or you can call it source, you can call it anything you like. It's inside you. You are it. It's not something you're talking to. It's not something you're dealing with that's outside of yourself. It's something that is you. You are an aspect of source. You are part of source. You are source experiencing itself or herself, if you like. You are source evolving. Source is looking through your eyes, tasting the world through your tongue, hugging the world through your arms, experiencing the world. And that information goes into the one consciousness, the one that there's only one of, and informs it in its own evolution. That's the woman's spirituality take on how this is, if I could sum it up for many women, that it's immanent. You are goddess walking. You are goddess talking. And the difference is when you have to please with your actions something external to yourself, that is one way of looking at the world. But when you recognize that you are divine, then the awareness of your self-worth is automatic because you're divine. Goddess doesn't make trash. That you don't have to worry about your self-worth when you know that you are goddess walking. And this is not from ego. This is not us saying, we're goddess, we should rule, no, it's not an ego thing. It's just an inherent understanding of how all life is sacred, including you.
Let us sit in that for just a moment to my audience around the globe. What a relief. And we'll say once again, it's an inside job. So there it is.
Yes. I think I first heard that phrase from you many years ago, and that's so true. It's an inside job. Yeah.
We can't get away with it, can't get away from it. So let's stop. Let's stop resisting and sit in the knowledge that we are sacred, and so is every other living human and creature on this planet. And galaxy.
Every single one.
Yeah. Out to however far all of this goes. We can't imagine with our human mind. Thank you. Thank you. What a beautiful teaching for us to really wrap around and ponder and meditate on. Now, I want to ask, how have you shifted your communication over the years to be more, I'm going to say, effective as a minister, as a spiritual leader?
If your audience knows anything about the Enneagram, I will reveal that I am an Enneagram 3. And for those who may not have heard of it, the superficial explanation is that it's a personality typing system. But I think it's much more than that. Yeah, and I think everyone who's interested in evolution would do well to look that up and find out more about it. The 3, there are 9 types, and they all have a different focus. One type is not better than the other. They're all needed by humanity for us to be our best and to learn the most, to evolve, and to experience the most joy. But the 3, their particular focus is on achievement, on producing, on getting stuff done. That's what they want to do every day. And there is the unhealthy, healthy, and average aspects of each of the types. So the unhealthy aspect of the 3 just wants to drive towards success. She just wants to produce. She just wants to make things happen and get stuff done and achieve. And then she'll be loved. Then she'll be able to relax and know that people respect her. And that's the unhealthy aspect. As you become healthier, and so the unhealthy aspect is that the unhealthy 3 believes that feelings are speed bumps on the way to success, that you have to put your feelings aside because they are just going to get in the way of you getting stuff done. And I think I lived that way for several decades until about age 35, when I started learning about the Enneagram. And I saw the thing that's horrible about the Enneagram and wonderful is that you're embarrassed when you find out what you're really up to that you have not looked at. And it's like being exposed. It's like, oh no, they see me. Oh no. So what I think has been the most valuable for me is evolving as a 3 to see that, of course, feelings are not speed bumps on the way to success. The way to a true, lasting, satisfying life of success is not at all what I thought it was when I was 20, but it rather includes being aware of your own feelings and letting them run through you like a river. You don't have to wallow in them. If they're negative, you just let them run through you like a river, and they will. And the feelings of others are absolutely to be taken into account. And I think running the Goddess Temple for so many years, I learned that lesson over and over again until it has really seated itself within me. Maya Angelou said, people will forget what you did. People will forget what you said, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And so that's something that I think I have learned in my evolution, to remember that just getting stuff done, that's fine. Get stuff done. Go ahead. Feel the satisfaction of it. But do not run over people's feelings in it along the way, because you will not have a successful, happy, joyful, fulfilled life if you do.
Words of wisdom. I'm also a 3, the manifestor. Yes. Oh, yeah. Our lists go on for days and days. And yes, we are get stuff done women. And thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the balance. The balance 3 in the Enneagram.
Yes. Yes. Right.
You mentioned the intelligences of women, which are many. Now, how can we use a spiritual practice, quiet time, meditation, prayer, whatever our audience wants to call it, going within? How can that help us manifest a better career?
This culture drags us out of ourselves. And I don't believe in resisting anything. You know that old adage, that which you resist persists. So I don't believe in struggling or fighting against something. I believe in just being aware of what is actually happening and then redirecting your focus to something you know is going to be more useful, more valuable, more fulfilling, more self-actualizing for yourself. This culture, one of the things it does to produce consumers is drag our attention away from the inward reflection. We are dragged away by our phones, by social media. We are dragged away by our computers and working on them. We are dragged away by Netflix, looking at something on a screen. We are constantly told that we must look outside ourselves, read the next book, take the next seminar. If you just find that one thing, that's going to fix you, and it's outside yourself, then once you find that thing, yes, then you'll be okay. So we are constantly being invited to step outside ourselves, and that produces a consumer. Because when you step outside yourself, you find out that, you have to pay $29.95 a month for this subscription, or for this book, or for whatever it is. So it's directly tied to consumerism and taking energy from us. And that's a whole other concept of stealing Shakti from particularly women. But the real fulfillment obviously lies in going inward. So we don't fight the culture. We don't rail against it. We don't argue. We simply take the discipline. And discipline means remembering. Discipline is not forcing yourself to do something through your will. That's the superficial explanation of discipline. All discipline requires to have discipline is to remember what you truly, 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 really, really want. If you can keep your focus on what you really, really want, discipline will come quite naturally. And so if we continue to look inward and make space in our lives for looking inward, I have which I broke today, I have a rule that I rarely do anything external in the mornings. Now, you are my incredibly respected and valued friend, and when you said podcast at 9, I'm like, yes, okay, podcast at 9. But normally, I keep my mornings completely to myself. I don't generally answer the phone. I don't generally do external things. I do internal things. I journal. I meditate. I spend time with my cat, Devi, because although he is such a pill to other people, he's very wise with me. So I do a lot of internal things. I take the dogs to the dog park and get my exercise by walking. And so I have created a routine that encourages me to go inward. And with all that women are asked to do, particularly women with children, you are dragged out of yourself constantly. There is never a time when people say, Mom, please go into your room and have 2 hours of meditation and a hot bath and journaling time. No, they'll never invite you to do that. You must have a boundary, and that's part of the Queen archetype, is having boundaries. You must have some kind of boundary that allows you to naturally go inward and spend time within yourself. Because if it's true, as I maintain, that you are source itself, having a human experience, then once you go inward, source will reveal all the answers to you that you need in that moment. And there'll be very little effort required. So we must stop responding to the outside world all the time. Obviously, we have to some extent, to function, but we must make the internal world a priority also.
I'm so excited by that. And I find myself doing more of that as well, the morning time. I don't want to get up and hustle. Did that for years, went off to jobs, corporate, and I don't think we're wired that way. And
well, women certainly are not.
Yeah, I think in some ways, yes, but it's not healthy for them either. And so,
right.
I'm very
hustle culture is not women's culture. That is not hustle culture. Is not a culture that serves women or was created by women. We try to fit into that culture. I was, as you know, part of the corporate world for many years, and you don't honor your physical body. What we are supposed to do physically when we get our moon time is we're supposed to stop working and go rest for 3 or 4 days. And we are not invited to do that at all. We are invited to, I don't mean to be coarse, but this is the imagery. We are literally invited to stuff a plug in it and keep going. We are not invited to respect our woman's body and our needs. So nothing in this culture is for us. But I do believe in the words of Buckminster Fuller, a very wise man. And he said something to the effect of, don't bother fighting what you don't like. Instead, create something new and so beautiful that it's irresistible to everyone. And that's what I believe we are doing as women. There's no point in railing against the dominator model or being mad with men. None of that is real. Men are wonderful. Men are also divine. Men are also part of the one there is only one of. Men are sacred, just as we are. No point in fighting and making them the enemy. That's just absurd. And I know you believe that too. So let's just not fight. They say that with training a dog. Just ignore your dog's bad behavior. Don't argue with it. Don't correct them. Just the best dog trainers say redirect to the behavior you want and reward that. And that's what we women should be doing, joining with men who are aware. And you have a very aware man in your life, and I have a few in mine. And we must join with aware men and create a new modern world that's so beautiful that it's irresistible to everyone.
Irresistible. And let's wrap up with the Queen's teachings. The most amazing school I've gone to, and I've gone to a ton of class. I've done every self-improvement and a lot of degrees, etc. This is something.
Oh, yeah, that's a 3 thing. That's totally a 3 thing.
Never stop going to school, do we?
Yeah,
completely different. It's a transformational education, and that's very different than another PhD, MD, whatever, MBA. How did the Queen's teachings come to you? In a dream, you were on a yacht, you were sipping champagne, in all seriousness. In all seriousness, how did you come to the Queen's teachings? Did they come to you? How did this come to be?
The Queen teachings are also called the 4 powers of woman: maiden, mother, queen, and wise woman. And they are the 4 primary archetypes of woman. And we are very familiar with 3 of them, particularly in their negative aspects. We're familiar with the maiden, who is the explorer and the experiencer, but the one who is commercialized by the dominator model culture. And she's used to sell things, everything from cars to hamburgers. They're her beautiful, youthful, sensual body. The mother, we are very familiar with the mother, the worker, the birther, the tender, the nurturer. But the mother has no boundaries. She cannot, because she is unconditional love herself, that archetype. Unconditional love has no boundaries. And the queen is the archetype that has been denied and demonized by our culture, because this extractive culture, a culture of extraction, from consumer culture could not exist in the face of the queen's clarity and her vision and her boundaries. She's the one who puts the boundaries on the mother. And then the wise woman crone is the elder woman. We're very familiar with the denigration of the elder woman. She's not supposed to grow old. She's supposed to have some surgeries to try to look as young as possible. She has a lot of insults thrown at her. Little old lady in tennis shoes was the one when I was young. So these are the 4 archetypes of woman. And how it came to me is that I watched I didn't know the name for this, but I watched my mother be a very good mother, very loving, but no queen, no boundaries. She let my dad, who was not a bad man, but he was selfish, just drag us all over hell and gone when we were children. I went to over 30 schools, and I kept trying to figure out. There's a lot of, the Beatles had this song, Love Is All You Need, when I was like 9 years old. And I remember, I loved the Beatles. I adored the Beatles. But I remember going home one day, listening to that song. I was 9 or 10. And I thought, well, this is crap. This is not true. My family has a lot of love, but we're still really messed up. We're still unhappy. We're still, and it was because my mother did not have queenly boundaries to hold a vision for our family and say, Biff, you dragging us all over, you quitting another job, us being broke all the time when you're an intelligent, a talented man and you just can't stay put, that's not the vision for this family. And so my mom was a good mother, but had no queen. And it took me till I was about 35 or 40 to start recognizing these archetypes in woman, and that the queen was the denied and demonized one. And what were her qualities? And I researched and I talked and I studied, and I also had some information just come through me that I take no credit for. It was truth that came through me, and I'd never seen it anywhere. I'd never heard of it, but I knew it was true as I was writing it, as it was coming through me. And it took about 3 years to get it all down on paper and in video, and that is what the Queen teachings are. And I'm constantly learning, but we have the basis for it, and women can take the Queen teachings, and we have over 1,000 written testimonials for how it has transformed women's lives. It certainly transformed mine once I understood it.
That's exactly the word. It's the most amazing school I've gone to. And yes, I believe...
I'm so glad it served you. I'm so glad it served you.
Continues to do so and inform my life on a daily basis. And I love that we receive divine downloads, uploads. I believe that's divine inspiration. Certainly there were things I wrote in my book. I don't know how I knew that, where that came from.
Yes. Did you have that experience also, where something just came through you and you recognized it as truth, but it was not something you had learned elsewhere? It was something new and fresh that just came through you in the moment, because you are goddess experiencing herself. So of course, amazing insights, a woman like you who knows how to be a channel for wisdom, of course it's going to just come through you. It seems magic to other people, but it's just what happens, isn't it? When you allow yourself to flow with source.
It's a beautiful thing. We would do well to do this more and more and more on a daily basis. Oh, such words of wisdom, such different ways of thinking and being. And Ava, how can folks connect with you? This will also be in the show notes for our audience. How would you like folks to reach out, perhaps ask about the Queen's teachings?
We have a website, www.museumofwoman.us, and you can find the Queen Teachings information with 2 free classes. You can take the first 2 classes free and see if it's your cup of tea. All you have to do is send us your email and your request, and email us at ava@museumofwoman.us. And the Museum of Woman is the entity that offers the Queen teachings, among other things. And I've tried, Dr. Miluna, I have worked on simplifying my life because that's part of the going inward. And so I don't have a zillion places that I check for information. You can text me, and that's on our website, or you can email me. And those are the only two ways to really reach me. And I don't, we have an Instagram account. We have a TikTok thing. I just don't pay much attention to social media, and we're on Facebook. I don't pay much attention to social media anymore because I don't think that's where the women we want to connect with spend all that much time. And so we use Facebook mostly to share our principles and our values and help educate women about the Queen teachings. But we are interested in reaching thoughtful, deep, emotionally intelligent women who do know that they are source walking and do want to continue the evolution of the entire multiverse, being part of that. Those are the women we want to reach. And those women are not spending their hours watching stupid reels on TikTok. They're listening to women like you and podcasts like this. That's what they're doing. Thoughtful podcasts of great information like this. So thank you for that significant work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ava. You heard it here first. Women who are listening and watching throughout the world, 2 complimentary Queen classes. I highly recommend it. And as Ava said, she continues to evolve. This is not something sitting. We evolve and grow every day because that's what we do as divine women and divine humans. Ava, what?
Yes.
Thank you for so powerfully speaking your truth and teaching us another way to live.
Dr. Miluna, you are doing amazing work in the world, and I thank you, and our entire membership just blesses you and appreciates you. Thank you.
You are so welcome. And for the audience, don't forget, subscribe and stay tuned for the next podcast, Up-Level Your Communication. Another episode coming soon. Thank you for being here today. Bye for now. Thanks for watching. Be sure to share our show with the key leadership at your company and with your friends. If you know in your heart that you're ready to up-level your speaking, stage presence, and impact, visit milunafausch.com to schedule a complimentary call. You can also purchase my book and our podcast music, Strong Body.
Thank you for enjoying this content by Billionaires in Boxes. If you would like to be a guest or a host, be sure to get in contact with us at billionairesinboxes.com.